It's Friday. We made it. Okay. So today I figured we'd have a laid back episode. I went to a concert last night. I'm going to another one tonight. So I'm tired. Um, but I have an idea for a TikTok to make, and then after that, I think I'm peeking. Hold on. Okay. I have an idea for a TikTok to make, and then after that, I figured I found all my notes from my first listen through of Eagle 9 Locked, and I thought, as promised yesterday, I said we would go through some behind the scenes. Let me reset my audio. Go through some behind the scenes of the actual production on Eagle 9 Locked. Yesterday, I talked through some of the graphic and branding choices I made. So if you want to watch that, go watch yesterday's live stream. But today we'll walk through some of this. I've got a big stack of papers, and I'm not sure how much of it is going to be interesting to read through. So I'm not sure how long this will take yet, but I'm going to split it into parts naturally if we need to. But first, I already did some of the grunt work of making this TikTok. I have an idea. Right now there's a TikTok template going around where I've seen it a lot. People are like posting with their best friends or their significant others, and like it has like it's a CapCut template that counts the problems down to 0. I'll show you one. I'll send myself TikToks from my personal account to the work account so I can find them. Yeah, so okay, here is one where this is Celeste Parker. I don't know anything about Celeste Parker, but this is the content that I'm showing. So I'll give you an example. So beautiful view, and obviously as we get closer to the beautiful view, all of our problems are gone. That's the template. So I thought it would be funny to do a spin on that and have the problems counting up from 0 to 100 as we're playing Hack Arcade, which is one of our apps. And it's a game where, for context, you connect the wires on a circuit board at the bottom of your screen, and that changes things about your gameplay. So we've got Pistol, Wings, Gus, and Dragons. Gus is our main character. Dragons in this level, this is Dragon's Bar. So that's like the big bad. And then you can add the wings to Gus. You can make the wire connect to the pistol. And then you can add chips. And those are like power ups. And so that is the game. I have screen recording of playing. But in order to have the template without going in and changing the numbers on the template to count from 0 to 100, I'm just going to reverse it. But in order to reverse the counting, I needed to reverse the screen recording of the game. So I, like Rachel Ray, pulling a freshly cooked beef Wellington out of the oven that she's already pre-prepared, like on cooking shows when they already have the meal prepared and they pull it out to like, so they have time. I've already reversed the clip. And so now I just need to go into TikTok. Little opera for you. Can you tell I've been listening to a lot more music recently, going to concerts? So I'm opening up the video, pulling up the one I already have reversed. And I'm going to drag the clip. So if you don't know this, in CapCut, if you're working with a template, you go in and you can say crop, and crop gives you the option to select which part of the video you want. Which is interesting. I kind of had to get used to that because usually it's trim is the verbiage used in editing apps. But they have, because this allows you to actually crop the image as well. But they rolled both into one. So I'm doing that. It's kind of tricky because I need to find there we go. I wanna get the very first death that I have from the screen recording. There we go. And it's hard because, like, Gus is flying backwards, like, the dragon is swallowing fire because I have it reversed. Okay, so here, I'll show you this. So, this is still counting down problems. And then so it starts, yeah, 100 problems died in combat. Okay, so this should be set. So now I should be able to export this. Save to device. No, with the CapCut watermark. I don't want the watermark. I don't know if I can reverse it in TikTok though. Can I reverse it in TikTok? I always forget what I can do in TikTok. Which is interesting because in college I did a lot of stuff about digital platforms and researching the different affordances that digital platforms have. So talking about how on TikTok you can stitch videos and you can like they're making content creation more accessible and stuff like that. And I would study how those different features affected how content spread on the app, and then the the impact that that had on culture and digital culture building. And I feel like now that I use TikTok for work, um, like I'm using TikTok as a creator much more now than I did back in college. And so I have a lot more familiarity with stuff. Um, so it's kind of ironic because I kind of don't need those smarts for analysis anymore. Those smarts, that knowledge. Uh, but I feel like I have more of it now. Okay, so just someone somewhere is screaming at the screen that, yes, this is how you reverse it. The other day, I was talking to one of my bosses after one of the live streams, and he told me he had been watching and was yelling at the screen, "It's not iOS 17, it's 18," and different things like that, which I love the idea of. I think it's so funny that I'm calling it rage bait. He didn't call it rage bait. Uh, I think it's so funny that me being mic'd up and just chit-chatting for a bit on the clock, um, is creating so many natural rage bait scenarios. Just because it's frustrating that there's things I don't know. To be clear, he wasn't frustrated that I didn't know the thing. I am just joking about that. Let's see. Okay, so I don't think we can reverse videos in TikTok, but you can save videos from TikTok now. So I exported it to TikTok without the watermark. I'm saving it from TikTok, and now I'm going to put it back in CapCut because I'm a girl boss, because that was so smart. We're reverse engineering this workflow. So let me go edit new project, taking the video I just downloaded, add it. Gonna adjust. No. The theme of my day is things being nested in a way that makes my life harder. So right now, I cannot remember where the ability to reverse a video is nested within CapCut. Let me see. Reverse. There it is. So what did I have to press to do that? Oh, just edit and then reverse. Okay, that's embarrassing. It wasn't that nested. Um, Earlier I was looking for a file and it was like in 3 different folders nested, and it was just a pain in my butt. Okay, so I got it. It's reversed. So now we can export to TikTok. Um, let's see. This kind of is tricky though because it's lost the template since it's no longer local. the template I used isn't pulling up automatically. So that kind of isn't ideal because I like it when it automatically links the feature that I'm using. Because I think that kinda helps with the algorithm, but it's not showing up. I am gonna go ahead and pick a song. Uh, I've been seeing a lot of them using the Inside Out song, the doom, 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 doom. Okay, I'm not gonna try it. Well, I did just try it, but let's see. Okay, there we go. That just feels like a good neutral audio. Oh, it's reversed. That's what's going on. That's going okay, hold on. Let me turn down the that is so sinister. Okay. This is funny. Okay. Wait, this is cute. I think this is a good idea. So it's counting up the problems. And it's got the cutesy little Inside Out song. Huh. That's good. If I do say so myself. No. Cancel. Okay. And then let's go ahead and I don't know why it has a random there's like one frame of nothing before we get into the video. I wonder why. Okay, there we go. But it was making the automatic thumbnail like just a black screen, which is like fine, but I don't know. It's not necessarily ideal. Okay. There we go. There we go. Okay, cute. And I'll caption it later. But so there we go. We got a TikTok made. I'm going to draft it. And let's see how many drafts I have working now. 5. Today I made my first TikTok with one of my bosses featured in it. So y'all go, don't let it flop. Don't let it flop. I used to make videos all the time with my dad growing up, and I would post them or I would tweet something that he said that I thought was so funny, and then they would flop so hard, and it wasn't his fault. It was just because like, I don't know. Because my algorithm sucks, or maybe my sense of humor didn't land. It wasn't landing on Twitter. But he would always be like, "It flopped because it was me." He would always joke about that. Okay, yeah. So I have 5 drafts now. And that's literally see, to me, I'm like, I broke a sweat drafting those 5 videos. Alona Mar, US women's rugby bronze medalist. She just posted it in or I saw an interview where they were talking about how like how they do content or like no, they were talking about a quirk about I think it was an interview where they were talking about a quirk about their dancing partner. So everyone on Dancing with the Stars this season talked about like a quirk that their partner has. And Alan, her partner, was like, she like makes content and like will just post it. Like Alona was like, yeah, I don't draft anything. I just get so anxious, like I just post it. She posts so much. I am beyond impressed that she just posts. She doesn't draft things. It's crazy. But yeah. So that's kind of so we did a TikTok. I talked about my little day. So now I'm going to work through some of these notes. For context, when I hired on, the whole first week was we kind of met every day for a while, and I got to listen to it was so fun. Like I got to listen to this podcast on the clock, and then we talked through notes. Basically the stage I was handed Eagle 9 locked to, like when it was handed off to me, it was basically done. Like I was given a really good finished product, and my notes were kind of just the final fine tooth comb. And then I have a file. So I have like a stack of papers here that you can see, but I have a file on my computer too, where after we talk through the changes or my feedback, we talked about which changes we were actually going to implement. And hold on, I'm having to log in to Google. I think that's it. Okay. Oh, and of course the file's not where I thought it was. So we talked through which changes we were actually going to implement, and then I implemented them. And so I have a document somewhere that is all of the changes. It's called Riley Edits. There it is. And it's the timestamp for the changes made. And then I explained what I did. And then we did some more edits past that. Some of those edits are funny. And how they went about are funny, and I'm gonna see if I can find the Slack messages for those. But I'm gonna hold off on that for now to make sure that that's okay. Um, but I'll get into those later. I think we'll start with the written notes first. So, without further ado, episode 1, Eagle 9 Locked. This is dated 8/22/22. And let's walk through it. Okay, so at the top, actually, this is something cool to talk about. I have note AirPod listen. Audio level consistency may vary by headphone. So that actually was something we ran into quite a bit while Eagle 9 Locked ended up sort of in each of our different hands. And as I was making changes, and then as each person was listening through the changes I was implementing, I edit with, these are the Sennheiser HD 280 Pros, and I got them in college and basically did research on which headphones my favorite radio DJ has. My favorite radio DJ, Cheryl Waters of KEXP. Hi, girly, I love you. Queen, I don't know. Girly felt way too informal. That's what that was. That's what that crazy reaction was, where I was like, Queen, leader, hero. But yeah, so I was editing with these most days, but then sometimes I would do my listens through with AirPods. And at the time I had the first generation AirPods. Those have since died. So now I use the Pros, but I still don't have the Pros with the little cushions. And then if you go into your Apple settings, depending on your preferences for spatial audio, that can throw everything off. So that was interesting. And then when you're working on audio content, maybe something that you don't think about as a listener is, okay, you want to be editing with good raw headphones that are made for editing, but you also do want to have in mind what the listeners are going to be listening with generally. And so you want to make sure that everything gets condensed down in a way that sounds good still on your AirPods. And then a lot of people listen to podcasts in the car, which is important too. That's a totally different audio listening experience. So we basically at every step of editing, we're taking a look at that listener experience too and checking it. Which paid off ultimately because we actually won Best Commute Podcast from the Signal Awards. So it's great to know that that was something we paid attention to, and it was indeed important. So that is a first note I have at the top. That was something I had to learn early on, was that headphones matter. So moving through, I have notes. That's really crazy. I have notes for everyone's names, which seems insane to me now because these are like family members now, basically. I am so familiar with their names, but I didn't want to forget and sound dumb in these meetings. So I have notes for the names. We've got Eagle 9, Trinity 1, Max, and Fuse. And that's when oh, yeah. Eagle 9. Yeah, okay. Moving through, I have spatial audio is dynamic. Description, motivation, good. Oh, yeah. So something that immediately stood out to me as interesting and strong about what was going on with the story was that there was immediate motivation for why everything was being explained. So a lot of times there's something you always want to look out for in media that creators often look out for is there's information that you need your audience to have. Sorry, I'm doing this thing again where the camera is flipped and it's bugging me. Um, but there's information that your listeners need to have, and you need to get the listeners that information, but you need to motivate it so that someone's not just like saying stuff and it doesn't make sense diegetically. Um, that's like the fancy film $20 word to use. Diegesis is like what is going on in the world of the story. So you hear it most often when there's diegetic music. So if you're at a bar and there's music playing and it's not soundtrack music, it's music at the bar, in the bar. That's diegetic. And I am going to go ahead and fact check that though, because you know what? It's been 2 years since graduation and I'm not so married to the idea of being right. You know, okay, yes, I'm correct. Good. Okay, so basically, I just have a note and a compliment that we immediately established that he is uplinking his audio file or his he's speaking to comm support and he is uplinking what is going on amidst this sort of disaster that's unfolding to a drive for support to his support team. And so the fact that immediately we have a way for the audience to get the information the audience needs to have, and we found a way to make it diegetic is really it immediately stood out to me as a great strong choice. So I made a note of that. Yeah, okay, so 240 is the timestamp. It's gonna vary if you listen because we have ads and everything, a music bed, an introduction, everything is built in now when you stream the episodes, but, I have 240. Descriptors here seem very unique. Moments like this inform character and progression. I'm eager to learn more. So I immediately noticed that, and I remember this, that Fuse describes his surroundings and he's taking note of things about his environment and saying things in a way that I would never think to describe things. Um, so that immediately stood out to me as something unique and as something that was informing who he was and who this character was that I was about to go on this journey with. So okay, I love this note. Put a pin in this because this is something that will come into play later down the line when and if I get to talk through some of the nitty-gritty behind the scenes changes that we made. Should there be expletive variety? So this is probably a theater kid relic of mine, and something certainly from improv too. When you are delivering lines in theater, you're always taught to never say the same word the same way twice. So a good example of this probably is the Lady Macbeth monologue. So like the out damned spot, out I say, that monologue from Shakespeare Macbeth, you know the one. You don't want to, I don't know. Obviously, every rule can be broken. Everyone has their different motivations for breaking it, and you always want to justify. Okay, we got it. Sorry, that's me rolling my eyes on myself. But basically, it's a common note that you don't want to deliver the same word the same way twice because That's kind of not how we talk, you know? That's when you get sort of a flat, well, sort of villain type vibe. In the same way, word choice can stand out like that. So I immediately noticed that some of the expletives were the same. So we were using the same curse words over and over and over again, back to back to back, which certainly is how I think people do curse. Um, but I think that stood out to me as an annoying theater kid that, like, well, maybe we could spice up the expletives. Okay. On Walkie with Trinity. I have a note raw like I've been screaming at a concert written down, and I made a note of it. I wrote that it's on Walkie with Trinity 1. I don't remember what I meant by that though, so we're just gonna keep on rolling. Sometimes I would write quotes to give myself context for what part of my listening I'm on, but I would also do timestamps. So, okay, so 640 established last memory. Okay, yeah. So this again is kind of just a note to give myself context, trying to make sure I'm getting everything right as I'm working through the podcast. 640. At that point, we are finding out that Fuse just woke up. His last memory, he was trying to defuse a bomb in a stadium, and now he has no clue where he is. I have written sideways. Here we find out there are others struggling around him. Do we hear them? Should we? Why or why not? So that was something I kind of just wanted to talk through in the meeting. I could see arguments for both sides. And again, it's like one of those things where there are no rules in art. Like you just have to make sure you've talked about it kind of. So basically, something that was so interesting to me when I first started listening to Eagle Nine Locked was the way that it really did feel like as you were coming to and figuring things out about where you were and what world we were in. And of course, we're orienting ourselves as listeners, trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Well, on top of that, Fuse, our lead, also doesn't know what's going on. So he's not necessarily an unreliable narrator. Like well, yeah, I guess that is what you call it. He's an unreliable narrator by virtue of not knowing what the heck's going on. He just woke up. We can trust him, like, and basically trust that. Sorry, y'all, having a flipped camera, having bangs, having headphones on. I'm being too girl about it, but I am having a rough. There we go. You know what? It's just gonna be what it is. It is what it is, and it ain't what it ain't. Yeah. So that's that. Okay, wait. I'm gonna explain more of what I meant by that. So I basically just kind of wanted to talk through as the world was unfolding, like maybe I wanted to get a grasp on if we are starting to hear things as Fuse notices them, or if we should kind of be trial by fire, thrown into the same pit he's in, hearing everything, whether he's going to acknowledge and has worked through the fact that it's going on and whether or not he's noticed it or not. That was something I didn't know the answer to, and I wanted to ask them and make sure I could listen to the rest of the episodes with that in mind, because that changes everything kind of. So I have that. And then that led on to, I know this is somewhere, I think, but I'm going to mention it now because it fits. But at this point, I didn't know either. What are we listening to this from? Like, I know that Fuse is uplinking his audio to a drive, that this is a comm recording. Where is that comm recording? So is he recording into his wrists like Buzz Lightyear? Is there a headset built into something or what? Because then certainly he's going through all all of these obstacles, he's interacting with wires whipping around, he's interacting with water, and all these crazy things are happening. And so, at what points is it louder? At what points is everything fried because he just got submerged or what, or are we living in a world where at this point we're to assume that technology is far enough along that you kind of don't hear things like that? Kind of just understanding the limitations of the world is important. So I wanted to get a good grasp on that. Okay, I have a note. Audio mixing levels shortly hereafter vary. Volume of robot AI voice could be louder. Trinity 1. I didn't know Trinity 1's name. That's so crazy. So volume of Trinity 1 could be louder. I wanted it more on par with protagonists, which again is so crazy. I didn't know Fuse's name at this point. Can't even put myself back in that mindset yet. Or again, yet. That was weird. 11:38, the explosion could be louder. And so I have all of this circled and written that it's a headphone limitation. So to walk you through what I was doing in writing my notes too, I would make all my notes in blue, and then in the meetings, I would bring a different color. And so I would sort of annotate my notes for myself as I was going back into the editing process and making changes and listening to the next episodes. I wanted to make sure that I could distinguish what I had learned in the previous meeting in some way visually on my notes. And to kind of give y'all a check in, we are definitely only going to get to the first episode today. But that's good. I'll put that in the show notes afterwards so that we're all on the same page, literally. But yeah, let's keep going. This is getting a little long, but I'm going to keep pressing. Could be louder if you wanted. Yeah. Okay, so I already got to that. I said the explosion could be louder if you wanted to play with that. But like I said, that ended up being a headphone thing. So it was an issue of, if I remember this right, that first explosion was like blowing out car speakers, but I was listening to it back with AirPods, and the AirPods were condensing the audio file. Well, then I would find out when I was going through and making the changes, listening to it with my Sennheisers, that, oh dear God, it did not need to be louder. So, second blow, spark illuminating more. This again feels like it's kind of just a note to orient myself. Oh, but yeah, I have them all arrowed back to the note about, are other people struggling? Do we hear them? Why or why not? Maybe they haven't woken up yet, stuff like that. Because again, all of this really is affected by how much are we hearing and why, and where is the fixed point on him, the microphone. So that was sort of an all-encompassing thing that until I had an answer to that, all of my notes are kind of steered by that. 1304, protagonist gets louder. The variety of levels is dynamic, but if leading character is restrained and mic/recorder fixed, presumably, there we go again, this may be a continuity issue. And then I have noted role of listener would clarify. So just wanting to figure out what the role of the listener is. Do we have an omnipotent listener relationship such that we are hearing more than just the comms? Because at this point, I don't know if maybe in episode 6 or episode 3, we find out that we're hearing more than just what's being uplinked to the drive for the support team to listen to. So I wanted to get into that. 1534, another person got cooked and the drone was too close. Audio cues for the drone could be developed more. And if I recall right, that is something I think I personally took on and changed. What is that? 16? No. Smooth out. I guess that's something different. Yeah. I added gore to something at one point, and looking for the sound effects for that was interesting. So that stands out to me as a moment of editing, but it wasn't in this episode yet. Um, Keynote. I don't feel like the other people around 15, 15 minutes in are developed audibly. Is this a choice? Albeit I hate torture audio in films, but it may work in this context. So I was like right on the heels, I think, of seeing the most recent. I don't know if it's the most recent at this point, but the Batman movie, the new one with Edward from Twilight. Whoa, I just watched all the Twilight movies again. I don't know. I can't think of his name. Robert Pattinson. With Robert Pattinson as Batman. And that movie, it was good. It was great. But like there's some moments where they're listening to oh, it's my girl Zoe Kravitz. It's Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, right? Is that who she is? I think so. Cat as Catwoman, and they're playing the audio back, and it's torture audio from one of her friends. And I don't know. I listening to audio torture, I don't like. Something about visual context. I don't like watching torture either. But it almost like when you leave too much to the imagination like that, it almost becomes worse. I don't know. So I'm like, it was kind of giving the caveat that like I don't really like listening to people being tortured and struggling, but maybe we need some. Uh, but if not, I kind of wanted to know, hey, why don't we hear if he's in a room with all these other people and he's strapped to a chair and he's waking up and he just went through this big explosion, why aren't we hearing anyone else? Um so yeah. Which honestly, the answer to that is that they do wake up later. And they're just kind of not awake yet. And also it's a big room with and the acoustics and so that's kind of some of the context for that. Rope strain, loud, break up. Rope. Okay, rope strain loop break up at 12:50. Um, so this was a big one. It's kind of hard to so we didn't use Foley. We weren't doing the sound design. We pay like licensed audio and stuff. Licensed audio, found Creative Commons audio, and sort of wove together the story. And so there were some moments that were like left looped to be changed later. And so that was standing out to me. So that was something I did go in and break up later. But at 12:50 originally, there was some like rope strain and you could hear the loop. Actually, while looking at the changes that I actually did implement too, I noticed that at 16, yeah, at the timestamp 16, again, this is without the introductory info and ads. There was a phone ringing and some of the crowd noises. And so, which is something when you think about it, like that's, of course there is. But that was something that stood out to me. And so I removed that. And then I smoothed out the explosion because, at 18:30, there was an explosion. There's a note that stood out to me that I don't know. I asked about it and I got sort of I'm glad you caught that from my boss. But I don't know if I can say. So I'm going to skip over that and keep moving. Smooth out the explosion. And then Finally, at 25:33, there's the metal door sounds, and, I kind of something about it was taking me out of the world, and so that was kind of something that I wanted to change. So that one kind of was, like, less of a fix and more of a preference, and they went ahead and let me do that. So, I'm seeing if there's anything else. Yeah, so in my final changes, we've got broke up the rope strain loop, fuse dialogue levels at 1250, removing that phone ring from the crowd noises, smoothing out the explosion sounds, and then metal door sounds changed. And of course, each change that's made, we have to listen to the whole episode through again. And you got to make sure that you're listening on all the different devices and making sure that everything sounds good. And of course, this was me audio, like producing audio for the first time. Not for the first time, but at this scale. We've got like 130 layers in every project file for every episode. And they very much already had a system down and everything was organized in a certain way, and I was learning Logic Pro for the first time, and so it was definitely a learning curve for me, a steep learning curve. So that was a huge part of the process as well. So that was just one of this big stack of pages. So I'm definitely going to keep moving through. And if you want to keep following along, tune in for my next live stream. I hope you have a great weekend and a great rest of your Friday. Thank you for tuning in. If you did, you didn't. No one's tuning in live, if I'm being honest. But if you are watching from the future, hi, that's literally so cool. I don't know, literally crazy. What have you learned? What's going on in the world that I don't know about yet? I don't know. I'm trying to think of any other questions. I guess I don't have any. So I guess that wraps everything up. Tune in for the next live stream. We'll work through episode 2, and I guess that's it. Can you tell I'm really bad at hanging up phone calls? You probably should be able to tell that. But okay, bye. Thank you.